Right now, someone is falling in love in Cebu. She's 19. He's 67. He believes this is romance. She believes this is survival. An entire economy of a coastal town is built on making sure neither of them questions what they believe. This isn't a story about morality. Morality is easy. This is a story about what happens when poverty gets so creative it starts wearing the mask of desire. And once you see how the system actually works, you can't unsee it. You've seen the headlines. You've heard the rumors. Maybe you've even been to the Philippines and felt something was off, a discomfort you couldn't name, watching older foreign men with much younger Filipino companions, sensing an economy beneath the economy. You saw it at the mall, at the beach resorts, in the restaurants where the conversations were happening in broken English and the power dynamics were written in the way she leaned in and he leaned back. You felt something in your gut, but you didn't have the language for it. Or maybe you told yourself it wasn't your business. Or maybe you told yourself they looked happy. But here's what most documentaries won't tell you. This isn't a story about bad people making bad choices. It's a story about a system so perfectly designed that everyone inside it can claim innocence. The tourists say she chose this. The women say I'm doing this for my family. The government says we're cracking down. And somehow, the machine keeps running. Somehow, flights keep landing. Money keeps moving. Children keep getting raised on remittances sent from relationships that started in bars with names like Voodoo and Atlantis and LA Cafe. What you're going to leave with by the end of this isn't easy answers. I'm not going to give you a villain to hate or a hero to celebrate. What I'm going to give you is something more valuable and more uncomfortable. I'm going to show you how an entire economy gets built on the gap between currencies, how colonial history shapes modern intimacy, how survival math turns human connection into transaction, and how everyone involved can be both victim and participant at the same time. This isn't about morality versus immorality. It's about what happens when survival economics meets colonial history and modern tourism infrastructure. And by the end, you won't have easy answers, but you'll have clearer questions. And sometimes that's more valuable. So let me take you somewhere. Let me take you to a restaurant in Angeles City, where I learned how the system actually works. It sits on Fields Avenue, a street that used to serve as Clark Air Base before the Americans officially left in 1992. The base closed, but the street stayed open. The infrastructure remained. The bars, the clubs, the short-time hotels, the restaurant with open fronts where you can see inside from the street. This restaurant isn't special. It's not famous. But it taught me more about sex tourism in the Philippines than any documentary I'd ever watched. The restaurant has two menus. When a Filipino walks in, they get handed a laminated menu with prices in pesos. A plate of sisig costs 150 pesos. That's about $3. A bottle of San Miguel beer is 50 pesos. A full meal with rice and two viands. And a drink might run you 250 pesos. $5. That's what locals pay. That's a menu that makes sense for the economy that most Filipinos live in. But when a foreigner walks in, and you can tell who's foreign not just by skin color, but by the way they carry themselves, the way they dress, the age difference between them and their companion. They get handed a different menu. Same dishes, same sisig, same San Miguel, but the prices are in dollars now. That plate of sisig is $12. The beer is $4. The full meal is $30. 6 times the price. Same kitchen, same ingredients, same portions, different menu. When I asked the owner about it, I expected defensiveness. I expected her to lie or deflect. She didn't. She looked at me like I'd asked why water is wet. She said, "They come here for something. We price it what they can afford to pay. Fair is fair." And I sat with that for a long time. Fair is fair. What does fairness even mean when a currency gap is so wide that your entire sense of value gets warped? When $50 is 3 weeks of groceries for one person and a single night out for another person, what does a fair price even look like? The owner wasn't being cruel. She was being practical. This is survival capitalism. This is what happens when your economy has been dependent on foreign money for so long that price discrimination becomes common sense. But here's where the story gets complex. Behind that restaurant works a young woman I'm going to call Maria. That's not her real name. She asked me not to use her real name because her family doesn't know the full truth of how she makes her living. Maria is 23 years old. She has a 5-year-old daughter who lives in the province with Maria's mother, which is about 4 hours away by bus. Maria sees her daughter twice a month if she's lucky, once a month when money is tight. Maria sends home 15,000 pesos every month. That's about $270. Her mother uses that money for food, for the electric bill, for school supplies, for medicine when the daughter gets sick, for the small debts that pile up in provincial life where there's never quite enough. $270 doesn't sound like much if you're listening to this from America or Europe or Australia, but in a rural province in the Philippines, it's the difference between eating 3 meals a day and eating 2. It's the difference between sending your kid to school with shoes and sending them barefoot. It's the difference between having a future and just surviving the present. Here's the math problem. Maria's official salary from the restaurant is 8,000 pesos a month. That's about $145. She works 6 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day. She serves food, cleans tables, takes orders, smiles at customers. $145 a month. You don't need to be good at math to see the gap. She sends home $270. She earns $145. Where does the other $125 come from? Where does her own rent come from? Her own food? Her own phone bill? So she can video call her daughter? Maria fills that gap the same way hundreds of women on Fields Avenue fill it, through companionship. That's the word everyone uses. Companionship. Some nights, that means sitting with a foreigner during dinner and getting a tip. Maybe he's lonely. Maybe he just wants to practice his English with someone pretty. She sits. She laughs at his jokes. She asks him about his life back home. And when he leaves, he slides her 500 pesos. $10 for an hour of conversation. That's more than she makes in a full day at the restaurant. Some nights it means more. He asks if she wants to get a drink after her shift. She says yes. They go to a bar down the street. He buys her lady drinks. That's what they're called, lady drinks, which cost more than regular drinks and part of the price goes to her. They talk. He touches her hand. She doesn't pull away. At the end of the night, he asks if she wants to come back to his hotel. She says okay. He gives her 2,000 pesos, $40. She's home by 2 a.m. She showers. She sleeps for 4 hours. She wakes up and goes back to the restaurant. Maria doesn't use the word prostitution. Neither do the men who pay her. They call it dating. They call it a relationship. One regular customer I spoke with, I'll call him David, a 58-year-old Australian who lives on a pension, told me genuinely, with no irony, with what seemed like real conviction, I'm helping her. She'd be worse off without me. And here's the thing that breaks your brain. He's not entirely wrong. Maria's daughter is in school because of that money. The school fees are paid. The uniforms are bought. The notebooks and pencils are there. Maria's mother received medical treatment last year for hypertension because Maria sent extra money. The Burundi Health Center isn't free. Not really. There are always fees, always under-the-table payments to move up the line, and Maria paid them. Her family has a roof that doesn't leak because Maria paid for the repairs. The gap between local wages and foreign currency is so massive that what looks like exploitation from the outside looks like opportunity from the inside. This is the first truth of sex tourism in the Philippines. It survives because it solves a problem that shouldn't exist, but does. The problem is poverty so deep that a regular job can't sustain a family. The problem is an economy where minimum wage is 570 pesos a day, about $10. And that's only if you can find full-time work, which most people can't. The problem is a cost of living that keeps rising while wages stay frozen. The problem is a system where millions of people have to choose between dignity and survival. And survival wins every time because dignity doesn't feed your kids. So who's the villain in this story? Is it Maria for doing what she has to do? Is it David for taking advantage of the currency gap? Is it the restaurant owner for having 2 menus? Is it the Philippine government for not raising wages? Is it the global economic system that creates these inequalities in the first place? Keep that question in your mind. It's about to get more complicated. Let me tell you another story. Imagine you're standing in water, not drowning, but not swimming either. Just standing in place, working as hard as you can, and the water stays at your chin. One wrong move, one unexpected expense, one sick kid, one broken motorbike, and you go under. That's the economic reality for millions of Filipinos. Not abject poverty, not homelessness, not starvation, but constant, grinding precariousness. The sense that you're always one disaster away from catastrophe. Now imagine someone swims by with a life vest. Except the life vest isn't free. It costs your dignity, your time, and sometimes your body. But it also comes with something magical. A visa, a plane ticket, a pathway to a country where minimum wage can feed a family, where hospitals don't turn you away, where your kids can go to college. The visa dream. That's what they call it in the Philippines. The visa dream. I met a woman in Cebu who explained this to me. I'm gonna call her Linda. She's 31 now. She'd been in relationships with 3 different foreign men over 5 years. 1 British, 1 Australian, 1 American. She met the British guy when she was working at a dive shop in Mobile. He was there for 2 weeks, taking his advanced diving certification. They spent every evening together. He said he'd never felt this way before. He said she was different from women back home. He said when he got back to Manchester, he'd start the visa paperwork. He said she could live with him. They'd get married. She could bring her son over eventually. He went home. He sent money for 3 months. Then the messages got slower. Then they stopped. She never heard from him again. The Australian guy she met through Facebook. He'd been following her posts. She posted pictures of the beach, of her food, of her daily life. And he started commenting. Friendly at first, then flirty. Then he said he was coming to visit the Philippines and wanted to meet her. He stayed for a month. He rented a condo in Cebu City. She stayed with him most nights. He talked about bringing her to Sydney. He talked about starting a business together. He bought her a laptop. He paid for her son's school enrollment. When he left, he promised to come back in 3 months. He came back once, 6 months later. Then nothing. The money stopped. The messages stopped. The visa dream evaporated. The American guy was different. Older, 64, retired military. He'd been coming to the Philippines for years. He knew the game. He didn't promise a visa. He didn't promise marriage. He was honest in his way. He said he'd support her as long as they were together. He sent $500 a month. He visited every 3 months and stayed for 2 weeks each time. When I asked Linda if she loved him, she looked at me like I'd asked a nonsensical question. She said, "Does it matter? He helps me. I help him. He gets a girlfriend when he's here. I get money for my son. That's the relationship." When I asked if she felt used, she paused. Then she said something I've thought about every day since. She said, "Did I use them? They got a girlfriend. They got sex. They got to feel young and want it again. I got money for my son's asthma medicine. I got school fees. I got rent. Who used who?" This is where the story stops being simple. Because there's a reason the Philippines is called the smiling coast of Asia. Not because people are naive or naturally subservient. That's a racist stereotype that needs to die. But because survival here has required developing a relationship with foreigners that looks like friendliness but functions like economics. For over 400 years, the Philippines was colonized. Spain for over 3 centuries. Then America after the Spanish-American War in 1898. Then occupied by Japan during World War II. Then back to America's sphere of influence with major military bases until 1992. That history didn't just leave behind language. Why do you think Filipinos speak English so well? And laws and religion. It left behind an economic dependency, a cultural muscle memory that knows how to perform hospitality, how to make foreigners comfortable, how to read what foreigners want and provide it, how to turn a smile into currency. The word hospitality sounds nice. It sounds warm and generous. But when hospitality becomes your primary export, when your economy depends on making foreigners happy, when your survival requires reading the desires of people with more power than you and fulfilling those desires, what you're describing isn't hospitality anymore. It's economic performance. And it's exhausting. And it's been going on for centuries. Sex tourism didn't invent this dynamic. It inherited it. It commercialized it. And now it profits from it. But if this system is built on old colonial wounds, why does it still thrive in 2025? Why hasn't it been dismantled? Why do young women still stand on Fields Avenue at 9 p.m. waiting to be chosen? Why do retirees still fly in from Perth and Frankfurt and Toronto with suitcases full of gifts and pockets full of cash? The answer is hiding in the structure itself. Let's talk about purchasing power parity. I know that sounds boring. I know it sounds like an economics lecture. But stay with me, because this is where everything clicks into place. Purchasing power parity is just a fancy way of saying that money is worth different amounts in different places. $1 in New York buys you a cup of coffee. $1 in Manila buys you a full meal. That gap, that difference in what money can buy, creates its own morality. When a retired European man lives on a 1,500 euro monthly pension, he's lower middle class in Berlin. He's worried about rent. He's skipping meals to save money. He's watching every cent. He feels poor. He feels invisible. Women his own age don't look at him. Younger women definitely don't look at him. He works his whole life. He retires, and this is what he gets? Loneliness in a one-bedroom apartment. Eating microwave meals, watching TV alone every night. Then someone tells him about the Philippines. Or he sees a YouTube video. Or a friend went there and came back with stories. He books a flight. It's cheap. 500 euros round trip if he goes during low season. He lands in Manila. He takes a bus to Angeles City or Cebu or Dumaguete. He checks into a hotel that costs 20 euros a night and feels like luxury compared to what that money would get him in Berlin. And suddenly, everything changes. Suddenly, his 1,500 euro pension makes him wealthy. He can afford a house, a real house, not an apartment, a house with a yard, for 300 euros a month. He can afford a maid for 150 euros a month. He can afford restaurant meals every day. He can afford bar nights. He can afford to support a girlfriend and still save money. Still send money back to his kids in Germany. Still have more left over than he ever did back home. But it's not just the money. It's how the money makes him feel. Back home, he was nobody. Here, he's somebody. Back home, women ignored him. Here, young, beautiful women smile at him, talk to him, laugh at his jokes, touch his arm, ask him about his life. They call him handsome. They call him sexy. Some of them call him daddy, which disturbs him at first until he realizes that's just what they say. It's a culture thing. It doesn't mean what it means back home. His age doesn't matter as much here. His belly doesn't matter as much. His thinning hair doesn't matter. What matters is his passport and his pension and his ability to pay. And in a strange way, that clarity is refreshing. Back home, dating was confusing. Women wanted emotional connection, shared interests, chemistry, all these intangible things he didn't know how to provide. Here it's simple. She needs money. He has money. She provides companionship. He provides security. Everyone knows the deal. Nobody's confused. Now here's the philosophical trap. If both people benefit, is it exploitation? If he gets companionship and she gets survival, if he feels wanted and she feeds her family, if both people enter into this willingly, if nobody's forcing anyone, then where's the harm? The answer is yes, it is exploitation, but not in the way we usually think. It's exploitive not because of the individuals, but because of the system that makes it rational. Here's what I mean. When poverty is deep enough, rational choice stops being free choice. If someone holds a gun to your head and says, "Give me your wallet," you give them your wallet. That's a choice. You chose to hand over your wallet instead of getting shot. But we don't call that a free choice. We call that coercion. Now imagine the gun is invisible. Imagine the gun is your child's hunger. Imagine the gun is the electricity getting cut off. Imagine the gun is your mother dying because you can't afford her medication. Nobody's physically forcing you to sleep with a stranger for money. But when your child needs medicine and the pharmacy won't negotiate, your choice to enter a transactional relationship isn't really a choice. It's economic triage. It's survival math. This is what makes sex tourism in the Philippines so insidious. It doesn't need to force anyone. The economic structure does the forcing. The poverty does the forcing. The currency gap does the forcing. And then everyone involved gets to pretend that what happened was free choice, was mutual benefit, was a relationship between equals. The man gets to feel like a provider, like a good guy, like someone who's helping. The woman gets to feel like she's in control, like she's choosing this, like she's not a victim. The system gets to keep running. But let's be really clear about something. When I say the system is exploitative, I'm not saying the women have no agency. That's its own kind of insulting. These are smart, strategic, emotionally intelligent women who are making the best decisions available to them within a constrained set of options. Some of them are very good at this work. Some of them make more money than they ever could in any other job available to them. Some of them prefer this work to being a domestic helper in Saudi Arabia, which is the other major option for young women trying to make money to send home. At least here, they say, at least here I'm in my own country. At least I can visit my kids. But agency within a cage is still a cage. The fact that you're smart enough to figure out which corner of the cage has the most sunlight doesn't mean you're free. Now, we need to talk about the darkest part. And we need to talk about it honestly, because if we don't, we're leaving out the part of the story that makes people most uncomfortable, and discomfort is exactly what this topic requires. The Philippines has some of the strongest anti-child exploitation laws in Southeast Asia. The government has anti-trafficking task forces. There's the Interagency Council Against Trafficking. There's the Philippine National Police Women and Children Protection Center. NGOs work tirelessly. Organizations like International Justice Mission, Visayan Forum, Bahay Tuluyan. There are real prosecutions. People go to jail. This is not a country that has given up on protecting its children. And yet, child sexual exploitation persists, particularly in the form of online sexual exploitation of children, webcam exploitation, where children, sometimes very young children, are made to perform sexual acts in front of a camera for foreign viewers who pay money. Sometimes the abuser is a parent. Sometimes it's an aunt or uncle. Sometimes it's a neighbor who recruits children from poor families. Sometimes it's an organized network with multiple operators. The pandemic made it worse because children were home from school, families were desperate for income, and internet usage spiked. Here's the paradox. The same poverty that drives adult sex work also creates vulnerability for children. The same tourism infrastructure that brings money also brings predators. The same internet connectivity that offers economic opportunity also enables abuse. The same cultural value that says children must help support their families also creates situations where that help becomes exploitation. But here's what breaks the simplistic narrative that most documentaries push. Most Filipinos are horrified by child exploitation. Communities report it. Families protect against it. When cases are discovered, there's outrage. The idea that this is somehow culturally acceptable or that Filipinos don't care about their children is racist garbage. The issue isn't cultural acceptance. The issue is economic desperation, meeting predatory opportunity. I want to be very clear about something because I think this gets confused a lot in conversations about sex tourism. Child exploitation is not a natural extension of adult sex work. It's a separate crime. It's enabled by some of the same economic conditions. Yes. It plugs into some of the same infrastructure. Yes. But conflating adult sex work with child abuse helps no one. It makes it harder to prosecute actual predators because everything gets lumped together. It makes it harder for adult sex workers to report abuse because they're afraid of being arrested themselves. And it makes it easier for people to dismiss the complexity of adult survival sex work by saying, well, it's all abuse. Adult women making survival decisions in a context of economic constraint is not the same as children being abused. Both are problems. Both need solutions. But they need different solutions. And treating them as the same thing doesn't help the children and doesn't help the women. The truth, the third truth, is this: child exploitation isn't a natural extension of adult sex work. It's a separate crime enabled by the same economic conditions. Poverty is the root. Predators are the actors. And the solution is both economic development and aggressive prosecution of predators. You can't arrest your way out of poverty, but you can't develop your way out of predation either. You need both. Now, let's talk about something that sounds innocent but isn't: the girlfriend experience. That's the phrase that dominates expat forums and YouTube channels about the Philippines. The girlfriend experience. It sounds almost quaint, doesn't it? Like something from a romantic comedy. Like a service that provides emotional texture of a relationship without the complications. But the girlfriend experience is a commercial brand name for something much more complex. In Angeles City and Cebu, in the entertainment districts of Manila, Malate, Ermita, Makati, there's an entire ecosystem built around providing the simulation of romance. Not just sex. Sex is easy. Sex is transactional and clear. The girlfriend experience is something else. It's the pretense of emotional connection. It's a performance of intimacy. Here's how it works. There are bars, lots of bars, with names like Voodoo and Atlantis and High Society and LA Cafe. Inside these bars are women, dozens of them, sitting on stools or standing near the door or dancing on a small stage. The women are employees of the bar. When a customer comes in, he buys himself a drink, and he can buy a lady drink for any woman he wants to talk to. The lady drink costs more than a regular drink, maybe 150 pesos instead of 50, and part of that extra cost goes to the woman as commission. If he likes talking to her, if he wants to spend more time with her, he can pay a bar fine. The bar fine is a fee paid to the establishment, usually between 2,000 and 5,000 pesos, depending on the bar and the woman. That allows him to take her out of the bar for the evening or the night. Once outside the bar, whatever arrangement they come to is between them. The bar has been compensated for losing her labor for the evening. What happens next is technically independent. This is how the system maintains plausible deniability. The bar isn't selling sex. The bar is selling drinks and companionship. What happens after the bar fine is between two adults. Nobody's forcing anyone. It's all voluntary. Except within this system, there are gradations. Short time versus long time. Short time means a few hours. Long time means overnight. Some men don't want short time. They want the girlfriend experience. They want her to spend the whole day with them. They want to go to the beach together. They want her to sit with them during dinner and laugh at their stories and hold their hand while they walk. They want her to sleep next to them, wake up next to them, have breakfast together. They want the texture of a relationship, and the women provide it, because that's the job. The job isn't just sex. The job is emotional labor. These women learn languages: English, German, Korean, Japanese, Chinese. They study foreign culture. They learn what different nationalities expect, what they respond to, what makes them feel comfortable. They become expert readers of loneliness. They can spot a lonely man from across the bar. They know what questions to ask. They know when to laugh and when to be serious. They know how to make a man feel seen. Because their customers aren't just buying bodies. They're buying the feeling of being wanted, the fantasy of being desirable again, the temporary cure for isolation. Many of these men are divorced. Many of them had marriages that failed. Many of them spent years feeling rejected, unwanted, insufficient. And here, suddenly, a beautiful young woman is looking at them like they matter, touching their arm, asking about their day, laughing at their jokes. It feels real, and in a way it is real. The women are really there. The laughter is really happening. The physical touch is really occurring, but it's also performance. Scripted, practiced, refined over years of practice. The women know what they're doing. And here's the contradiction that nobody wants to face. Some of these relationships do develop real feelings. I've seen it happen. I've talked to couples who met this way and are now married, have kids, have built lives together. Some of them have been together for 10 years, 15 years. The man provides financially. The woman provides care and companionship. They love each other. You can see it. The fact that money started it doesn't mean money defines it forever. Love can grow in strange soil. Genuine connection can emerge from transactional beginnings. I'm not naive enough to say all of these relationships are fake. Some of them become real. But, and this is critical, the existence of genuine connections doesn't erase the exploitation embedded in the system. Both things can be true. Some relationships born from transactional beginnings become real, and the system that creates those beginnings is still predatory. The fact that some women find good partners through sex work doesn't mean sex work isn't exploitative. The fact that some men are genuinely kind to the women they meet doesn't mean the power imbalance isn't real. This is the cognitive dissonance that makes sex tourism so hard to talk about clearly, because individuals can have good experiences within a bad system. Individual kindness doesn't dismantle structural exploitation. And structural exploitation doesn't mean individuals can't find moments of genuine connection within it. Let me give you another piece of this puzzle: the remittance economy. The Philippines runs on remittances. Over $36 billion sent home by overseas workers every year. That's about 10% of the country's entire GDP. Think about that. 10% of everything the country produces economically comes from people who had to leave the country to make money. Money sent home by nurses in California, by domestic helpers in Saudi Arabia and Hong Kong and Singapore, by seafarers on cargo ships, by construction workers in Dubai, by caregivers in Italy, and yes, by women in relationships with foreign men. This creates a trap. The economy has become dependent on exporting people. Whole towns and provinces function because someone left. Children are raised by grandparents because parents are working abroad. It's so normalized that there's a term for it: OFW, Overseas Filipino Worker, and OFWs are celebrated as heroes. Bagong Bayani, modern-day heroes. The government actively encourages this diaspora. It facilitates it because the remittances keep the economy afloat. But what does it do to society when your economic development strategy is people have to leave? What does it do to families when children grow up barely knowing their parents? What does it do to people's sense of home when home is the place you have to abandon to survive? Sex tourism plugs into this existing infrastructure. It's another form of export, of companionship, of emotional labor, of intimate access. And like other forms of labor export, it's treated by many families not as tragedy, but as strategy. I spoke with a mother in Olongapo whose daughter was in a relationship with a 63-year-old American. He'd been visiting for years. He paid for the house they lived in. He paid for the younger sibling's school. He sent money every month, even when he wasn't there. When I asked the mother how she felt about it, she paused. Then she said something I'll never forget. She said, better than Saudi Arabia. At least she's close enough to visit. At least she's not gone for 2 years at a time. At least if something happens, she can come home. This is the fourth truth. You cannot understand sex tourism without understanding that it's embedded in a larger economic survival strategy that the Philippines itself has institutionalized. It's not some underground criminal thing happening in the shadows, despite the government's best efforts. It's interwoven with legal migration, with tourism policy, with economic development strategies that have failed to create sufficient domestic opportunities. So people have to export themselves, their labor, their bodies, their intimate selves. The geography of sex tourism in the Philippines tells a story too. Angeles City grew around Clark Air Base. Olongapo served Subic Bay Naval Base. These were massive American military installations. During the Vietnam War, they were R&R destinations, rest and relaxation for soldiers. That's a nice way of saying there were bars and brothels set up specifically to service military personnel. Tens of thousands of soldiers cycled through. Local economies grew around them. Women worked in clubs. Mixed-race children were born. Local businesses catered to American tastes. Then, in 1991, Mount Pinatubo erupted. Clark Air Base was destroyed by volcanic ash. And in 1992, after intense political debate, the Philippine Senate voted not to renew the lease agreements for the military bases. The Americans left. The bases closed. And places like Angeles City and Olongapo had to figure out what to do with all the infrastructure that had been built to serve soldiers. What happened next is predictable if you understand economics. The bar stayed open. The club stayed open. But the customer base shifted from military personnel to civilian tourists. Retired soldiers who'd been stationed there came back. They told their friends. They posted on internet forums. Angeles City became a destination for sex tourism. Specifically, not accidentally, not as a side effect of regular tourism, but intentionally. People flew there because they knew what was available. Other areas developed differently. Cebu, Boracay, Palawan, these weren't base towns. These were tourist destinations that developed for their natural beauty. But once tourism infrastructure was in place, hotels, bars, nightlife, English-speaking service workers, similar dynamics emerged organically. Poverty plus foreign currency plus hospitality infrastructure equals transactional relationships. It's almost a formula. Anywhere you have economic inequality meeting tourism, you'll find some version of this. The lesson here, the fifth truth, is that this isn't just about one corrupt industry. It's about how tourism itself, when it meets extreme inequality, creates exploitative economics almost inevitably. Unless there are strong labor protections, living wages, and social safety nets, tourism will generate sexual economies. Because when foreign money is the only money that can actually sustain a family, people will do whatever it takes to access that money. So what can actually be done? This is the part where I'm supposed to give you 5 easy steps to fix everything. But I'm not going to do that, because easy steps don't exist. Complicated problems don't have simple solutions. But that doesn't mean we're helpless. It means we have to think structurally and act locally and be honest about what works and what doesn't. If you're planning to visit the Philippines, here's what actually helps. Support businesses that pay fair wages. Ask ghost houses and tour companies about worker compensation. I know that feels awkward. I know you don't want to be that tourist interrogating people about their pay structure, but your money is powerful. Where you spend it matters. If a resort advertises ethical employment practices, if a tour company talks about fair compensation, reward that with your business. Vote with your money for ethical operators. Learn the difference between hospitality and transaction. This one's subtle but crucial. Filipino hospitality is real. Filipino warmth is genuine. People will invite you into their homes, share their food, help you when you're lost, chat with you on the bus. That's not transaction. That's culture. But if someone is being exceptionally friendly and it feels like it's going somewhere that involves money, trust that instinct. If a young woman starts a conversation with you at a bar and you're a 60-year-old foreign man, she's working. She might be lovely. She might be genuinely interesting, but she's working. Don't confuse economic performance for personal interest. Report child exploitation immediately. If you see evidence of minors being exploited, and I mean actual evidence, not just feeling uncomfortable about age differences, contact the Philippine National Police Anti-Cybercrime Group or the International Justice Mission. Don't look away. Don't tell yourself it's not your business. Children can't consent. Children can't protect themselves. If you see something, report it. Tip generously, but not patronizingly. Service workers in the Philippines are underpaid. Tipping helps. But don't treat people like charity cases. Don't hand out money like you're some kind of savior. Respect the transaction. Pay for services rendered. Tip for good service. But don't turn human beings into your philanthropy project. Here's what doesn't help. Don't enter relationships with massive power imbalances without examining your own motivations. If you're 60 and she's 22, if you met in a bar, if money's involved, if there's a significant language barrier, if her family is suddenly interested in you after seeing your bank account, call it what it is. You can tell yourself it's love. You can tell yourself she chose you for your personality. But be honest, would this relationship exist if you were both in the same country with the same economic standing? If the answer is no, then what you have isn't a relationship between equals. That doesn't make you evil, but it does make you responsible for being honest about the power dynamics. Don't film or photograph intimate situations for YouTube or social media. The expat life genre on YouTube is often just exploitation tourism with better branding. Filming your Filipina girlfriend for content. Making videos about how cheap it is to live in the Philippines. Showcasing your lifestyle that's only possible because of economic inequality. That's not cultural exchange. That's extractive. You're profiting off the power imbalance. You're turning someone's economic desperation into your content strategy. And even if she consents to being filmed, consent given under economic pressure isn't free consent. Don't pretend poverty tourism is cultural exchange. Some travelers go to poor areas specifically to feel grateful for their own lives. They take photos of children in slums. They visit depressed areas and then post on Instagram about how blessed they are, how much perspective they gained. That's extractive. Those people didn't consent to be your gratitude props. Their poverty isn't your spiritual lesson. If you care about this issue from afar, if you're watching this from another country and you want to help, here's what actually matters. Support grassroots Filipino NGOs working on economic empowerment, not rescue missions that treat adult sex workers as victims without agency. Many women in this economy resent savior complexes more than they resent the work. Support organizations that provide job training, microfinance, education access. Organizations that create alternatives, not organizations that criminalize survival strategies. Support organizations fighting child exploitation, like International Justice Mission and local Philippine child protection agencies. These groups do the hard work of investigation, prosecution, and survivor care. They need funding. They need international pressure to keep the issue prioritized. Support labor rights groups working to raise minimum wages and improve working conditions domestically. Because here's the real solution. People need to be able to survive on local wages. If a full-time job could actually feed a family, if healthcare was accessible, if education was affordable, the economic pressure that pushes people into sex work would decrease dramatically. You can't eliminate it entirely. Sex work has existed in every society, in every era, but you can reduce the desperation that makes it the only viable option. Here's what doesn't help. Tourism boycotts. I've seen people argue that we should just stop going to the Philippines entirely, that tourism is inherently exploitative and we should cut it off. But that would devastate millions of Filipinos who depend on legitimate tourism income. Hotel workers, restaurant staff, tour guides, drivers, shop owners. These people need tourism to survive. Cutting off tourism doesn't hurt the sex industry more than it hurts everyone else. It's collective punishment that hurts the most vulnerable. Simplistic moral judgments don't help either. Dividing the world into good guys and bad guys, victims and perpetrators, saved and damned, is emotionally satisfying but practically useless. The system is a problem, not primarily the individuals. Individual men making individual choices to engage in sex tourism are participating in exploitation, yes. But if you removed every single one of those men tomorrow, the economic conditions that create supply would still exist. The poverty would still be there. The currency gap would still be there. And new people would fill the demand side because the structural incentives remain. Real change requires systemic intervention, fair trade policies, debt relief, land reform, progressive taxation, investment in public education and healthcare, labor protections. These aren't sexy solutions. They don't make good headlines, but they're what actually works. If you're trying to understand your own complicity, if you've been to the Philippines, if you've dated someone from the Philippines, if you consume content about expat life there, I want you to ask yourself some questions. Not to punish yourself, not to drown in guilt, but to get honest. What attracted you to the idea of the Philippines as a destination? Was it the beaches? Okay, there are beaches everywhere. Was it affordability? Be specific. Affordable compared to what? Was it the promise of relationships easier than in your home country? Why would relationships be easier? What makes them easier? If you met someone there, would the relationship exist if you both lived in your country with equal economic standing? Really sit with that question. If she had the same income as you, the same passport, the same opportunities, would she still choose you? Maybe the answer is yes. Some relationships do transcend their origins, but maybe the answer is no. And if it's no, that doesn't automatically make you evil, but it does make you responsible for being honest about what the relationship is. What stories are you telling yourself to make this feel comfortable? Are you telling yourself she loves you for you? Are you telling yourself you're helping her? Are you telling yourself this is just how relationships work there, that it's cultural? These stories might make you feel better, but they might also be shields against uncomfortable truth. The practice isn't self-flagellation. It's honesty. If economic inequality played a role in your relationship, that doesn't automatically make it evil. Lots of relationships have economic components. But pretending it played no role makes you complicit in the system's invisibility. The system survives because everyone involved agrees not to name it clearly. The men don't call it prostitution. The women don't call it survival sex. The government doesn't call it economic failure. Everyone uses euphemisms: companionship, dating, helping out, relationships, cultural exchange. But here's the practice that matters most. Keep asking why. Why is poverty this deep in a country this rich in natural resources? The Philippines has minerals, forests, fisheries, agricultural land. It's not a resource-poor country. So why is the wealth so unevenly distributed? Why do a few families control most of the land and capital while millions scrape by? Why does the global economic system allow currency gaps this extreme? Why can the same labor be worth $10 a day in Manila and $150 a day in Melbourne? What structures maintain that gap? Trade policies, immigration restrictions, capital flows, debt servicing, corporate profit extraction. These aren't natural. They're policy choices. Why do wealthy nations not raise standards of living in the countries they extract resources from? Why is cheap labor treated as a competitive advantage instead of as a human rights issue? Why do companies seek out the lowest wages instead of the highest ethical standards? Why is labor export treated as a point of national pride instead of as evidence of economic failure? Why does the Philippine government celebrate OFWs as heroes instead of asking why the economy can't employ its own people at living wages? Why is the fact that millions of people have to leave the country to survive treated as success instead of as crisis? These are structural questions. And the real work isn't individual morality management. It's demanding structural change. Fair trade policies that don't just benefit corporations. Living wages enforced through international pressure. Debt relief for countries trapped in endless servicing of loans taken out by corrupt dictators decades ago. Decolonized economic relationships where raw materials aren't extracted cheaply and finished goods sold back expensively. Until those structures change, these patterns will persist. No matter how many individual men decide to be ethical, no matter how many individual women find alternative employment, because the system regenerates itself. When demand exists and economic desperation exists, supply will emerge. When foreign currency is worth 10 times local currency, transactions will occur. When survival requires accessing that foreign currency, people will do what survival requires. This isn't fatalism, it's realism. We can reduce harm without eliminating the system entirely. Better enforcement of anti-exploitation laws, better social services for people exiting sex work, better education opportunities so young people have alternatives, better health care so medical emergencies don't push families into desperation. All of these help, all of these matter, but they're palliative care for a system that needs surgery. So here's where we've traveled together. From that restaurant with 2 menus to Fields Avenue where Maria works nights to supplement her income. From the visa dream that keeps Linda in relationships with men. She doesn't love to the remittance economy that has turned people into the country's primary export. From Angeles City and Olongapo, where American military bases left behind infrastructure that became sex tourism districts, to Cebu and Palawan, where tourism development created similar dynamics without the military history. From the girlfriend-experience economy that commercializes intimacy to the purchasing power gap that creates its own morality to the question of whether choice under economic coercion is really choice at all. We've looked at child exploitation as a separate but related issue enabled by the same poverty, requiring both prosecution and economic development. We've examined how sex tourism plugs into the larger system of labor export that the Philippines relies on. We've seen how colonial history created patterns of dependency and performance that modern tourism exploits. We've grappled with the reality that individuals can have genuine connections within an exploitative system, that both things can be true simultaneously. If you're feeling heavy right now, that's appropriate. This isn't a light story. This isn't a story with easy heroes or clear villains. It's a story about structures that make good people make impossible choices. It's a story about how poverty under capitalism forces human beings into transactions that damage them. It's a story about how history compounds, how colonial wounds fester, how inequality creates its own justifications. But I want to make sure you leave with clarity, not just discomfort. Because discomfort without direction is just voyeurism. Sadness without action is just sentiment. And I don't want you to watch this and then feel bad for an hour and then move on with your life unchanged. I want this to change how you see systems, how you see power, how you see economics, how you see the relationship between your comfort and someone else's desperation. The transformation is this. You came and may be thinking this was a story about bad people doing bad things. You're leaving, I hope, understanding it's a story about broken systems making good people make impossible choices. Maria isn't bad for doing what she has to do to feed her daughter. David isn't entirely good for helping her, but he's not entirely evil either. He's participating in a system that predates him and will continue after him. Linda isn't a victim without agency. She's making strategic choices within constrained options. The mother in Olongapo who accepts her daughter's relationship with an American isn't a bad mother. She's doing survival math. You came and may be judging either the foreigners or the Filipinos. You're leaving, I hope, understanding that judgment without context is just cruelty disguised as righteousness. It's easy to judge the 67-year-old Australian man dating a 19-year-old Filipina. It feels good to feel morally superior to him. But unless you understand why he's there, unless you understand his loneliness and invisibility back home, unless you understand how economic power can make people feel alive again, you're not actually understanding, you're just judging. And judgment doesn't change anything. Similarly, it's easy to judge Maria or Linda or any of the women working in this economy. It's easy to say they should get different jobs, they should have more self-respect, they should demand better. But unless you understand the math, unless you've looked at a crying child who needs medicine you can't afford, unless you felt the specific desperation of being the only person responsible for elderly parents and young children with no safety net, you don't get to judge. You don't have standing. You came and may be wanting a villain to blame. You're leaving with something more useful. An understanding of how poverty, colonialism, currency gaps, and tourism infrastructure create conditions where exploitation becomes rational for everyone involved. The villain is the system. The villain is the centuries of extraction. The villain is a global economic order that prices some lives at $10 a day and others at $150. The villain is policy choices that protect capital over people. The villain is the absence of social safety nets, living wages, accessible healthcare, affordable education. Individual choices matter. Individual kindness matters. Individual men can choose not to participate. Individual women can choose other paths when other paths are available. But individual choices don't dismantle systems. And focusing only on individual morality lets the system off the hook. Here's what I want you to remember. You're not wrong for feeling disturbed. You're wrong if you let that disturbance become distance. The people in this story, Maria in the restaurant, Linda with her visa dreams, the mother in Olongapo accepting realities she can't change, they're not abstractions. They're not statistics. They're not symbols of anything. They're human beings making survival mathematics work in a world that prices their dignity below their desperation. The solution isn't pity. Pity is condescending. Pity maintains distance. Pity says I'm sorry for you from a position of safety. What's needed isn't pity. It's solidarity. It's structural change. Fair wages that can actually sustain families. Economic justice that distributes resources equitably. Immigration reform that doesn't trap people in poverty. Debt relief that frees countries from endless cycles of repayment. Decolonized trade relationships where the Philippines isn't just a source of cheap labor and exported people. These are massive, systemic changes. They require political will. They require international cooperation. They require powerful people giving up power, which they rarely do voluntarily. But that's what's actually needed. Anything less is just tinkering at the margins. And until those massive shifts happen, the solution is also smaller and more immediate. Honesty, respect, refusal to participate in exploitation, support for organizations doing ground-level work, reporting abuse when you see it, paying fair prices, tipping service workers, not treating people like exotic objects for your content or your adventure, listening to Filipinos about what they need instead of assuming you know. Not all Filipinos agree about sex tourism. Some see it as survival. Some see it as national shame. Some see it as a necessary evil in a broken system. Some see it as exploitation that needs to end. You don't get to decide which perspective is correct. You have to listen to the multiplicity of voices and honor the complexity. The mantra I'll leave you with is this: complexity isn't an excuse for inaction. It's a requirement for effective action. If you try to solve a complex problem with a simple solution, you'll fail. Worse, you'll cause harm. Rescue operations that swoop in and try to save sex workers without providing alternative income just push women into more dangerous situations. Moral campaigns that criminalize sex work without addressing poverty just make vulnerable people more vulnerable. Tourism boycotts that cut off income streams hurt service workers more than anyone else. Effective action requires understanding the whole system. The colonial history that created dependency, the global economics that maintain inequality, the remittance culture that's become structural, the tourism infrastructure that enables exploitation, the poverty that's the root cause, the predators who actively exploit versus the people just trying to survive, the children who need protection versus the adults making choices, the role of government, of NGOs, of international policy, of individual behavior. You can't fix what you won't face. You can't help what you simplify into flatness. The Philippines deserves better than both exploitation and savior complexes. It deserves economic justice, structural reform, and the space to tell its own stories on its own terms. Filipino activists, Filipino organizers, Filipino scholars, Filipino survivors, they know what they need. They've been saying it for decades. Land reform, progressive taxation, investment in public services, labor protections, an end to the oligarchic control of wealth and politics. But that requires international support because the system is international. The men come from Australia, Germany, America, Korea, Japan, China. The money flows internationally. The policies that maintain inequality are international trade agreements, immigration restrictions, debt servicing requirements imposed by international financial institutions. You can't solve this with nationalism. You can't solve this by blaming foreigners and kicking them out because the economic desperation remains. This is a story about global capitalism, about what happens when wealth concentrates in some places and poverty concentrates in others, about what happens when movement of goods is free, but movement of people is restricted, about what happens when profit protected, but human dignity isn't. If this video gave you that nuance, if it gave you that clarity, if it gave you that uncomfortable but necessary understanding, hit the like button. Not for me. I don't care about the algorithm in some personal sense. But I care about this message reaching people who need to hear it. Because most content about the Philippines either romanticizes it or demonizes it. Either it's all paradise and beaches and friendly people, or it's all exploitation and degradation and victimhood. Both of those narratives are incomplete. Both of them flatten complexity. Both of them make it easier to not think structurally. This video is trying to do something different. It's trying to hold multiple truths simultaneously. The Philippines is beautiful. The Philippines is complicated. Sex tourism is real. Sex tourism is embedded in larger systems. Individual relationships can be genuine. The structure that produces those relationships is exploitative. Women have agency. That agency is constrained by poverty. Men can be kind individuals. Those individuals participate in harmful systems. None of these contradictions cancel each other out. They all exist simultaneously. If you can hold that complexity, if you can resist the urge to simplify, if you can sit with the discomfort of not having a clear villain to hate or a clear victim to save, then you're doing the work. That's what I'm asking you to do. Not to have answers, to have better questions, not to fix everything, to see more clearly. Drop a comment if you've been to the Philippines. Tell me what you saw. Tell me what you felt. Tell me what confused you. If you're Filipino, please add your voice. The best documentaries aren't monologues. They're starting points for conversation. I don't have all the answers. I don't have a right to speak for anyone. All I can do is share what I've learned, what I've seen, what's been shared with me, and invite you into the complexity. And subscribe if you want more content that doesn't shy away from difficulty. Because the world is messy. The world is complicated. Power and poverty and history and desire all tangled together in ways that can't be separated cleanly. Our documentary should be honest enough to reflect that. Most content online is either oversimplified rage bait or oversimplified inspiration porn. This channel is trying to do something else. To sit with complexity. To honor contradictions. To tell human stories that don't resolve neatly. The Philippines is called the Smiling Coast of Asia. That nickname is both true and misleading. True because Filipinos do smile, do welcome visitors, do offer warmth and hospitality that's genuine. Misleading because behind those smiles is pain, is strategy, is history, is survival math. Both things are true. The smiles are real and the smiles are performances. The warmth is genuine and the warmth is economically motivated. The relationships are heartfelt and the relationships are transactions. When you travel, whether literally or in your imagination, carry that honesty with you. See the beauty. Acknowledge the pain. Don't collapse one into the other. The Philippines is not just its worst headlines, but its worst headlines are real and deserve attention. The Philippines is not just beaches and sunsets and friendly people, but the beaches are stunning, the sunsets are spectacular, and many people are genuinely warm. Honor all of it. See all of it. And when you leave, whether you're leaving the Philippines after a visit or leaving this video after watching, carry the responsibility of what you know, because now you know. You know how the two menus work. You know what the visa dream costs. You know what currency gaps create. You know why someone's daughter is in the province while she works in Angeles City. You know what short time and long time mean. You know what girlfriend experience really is. You know how colonial history shapes present economics. You know that child exploitation is separate from adult sex work, but enabled by similar conditions. You know that remittances run the economy. You know that labor export is structural policy. You know that survival choices aren't free choices. You know all of this now. And knowing changes your responsibility. You can't unknow it. You can't pretend it's not happening. You can't reduce it to simple morality tales. It's complex, it's systemic, it's painful, and it's real. What you do with that knowledge is up to you. I can't tell you how to live. I can't tell you what choices to make. But I can tell you this. Whatever you do it with your eyes open. See the whole system. Honor the humanity of everyone caught in it. Refuse easy judgments. Support structural change. And when you feel overwhelmed by the size of the problem, remember that structural change happens through accumulated small actions by many people over time. You don't have to fix everything. You just have to see clearly, act ethically, and keep asking why. Why is it like this? Who benefits? Who's harmed? What would it take to change it? Those questions, asked persistently, lead eventually to action. Not perfect action. Not action that solves everything, but action that moves toward justice. The Philippines deserves that. Maria deserves that. Linda deserves that. The mother in Olongapo deserves that. The children who grow up in the system deserve that. And the men who participate, who feel lonely and invisible and who find temporary relief in the girlfriend experience. They deserve to live in a world where connection isn't commercialized, where intimacy isn't bought, where their worth isn't tied to their wallet. Everyone deserves better than the system we have. And the only way we get there is by seeing it clearly first. This video is that attempt at seeing. Imperfect, incomplete, from one limited perspective, but honest as I know how to be. Thank you for staying until the end. Thank you for sitting with the discomfort. Thank you for not clicking away when it got complicated. That willingness to engage with complexity is what changes things. Not quickly, not dramatically, but slowly, steadily, through accumulated understanding. If you found value here, share it. Not because I need views, but because these conversations need to happen more openly, more honestly, more nuanced than they typically do. And if you disagree with something I said, that's good too. Leave a comment, push back, add your perspective. Make this better through dialogue. The Smiling Coast of Asia. Remember that phrase. Remember what's behind the smile. And when you smile back, Let it be with full awareness of what you're seeing. Let it be with respect for the complexity. Let it be with commitment to justice. That's all any of us can do. See clearly, act ethically, keep learning, keep questioning, keep pushing toward a world where survival doesn't require selling intimacy, where dignity doesn't have a price tag, where people don't have to export themselves to feed their families. We're not there yet, but we could be, if enough people refuse to accept that this is just how things are, if enough people demand structural change, if enough people connect their individual choices to systemic outcomes, if enough people keep asking why. So keep asking, keep seeing, keep caring, and maybe, slowly, things change.